Hello, and welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. I am the founder and CEO of Coach Dora LLC. Our guests will be entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders that drive social impact. It can be lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be. Welcome to Building Leadership Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dora Mendez. Thank you to all our listeners and viewers. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're new to this podcast, thank you for joining us. This podcast is all about supporting you on your inclusive leadership journey. Dora isn't a common name. Well, there is a very famous cartoon character who is a global hero to adventurous and curious children all over the world, Dora the Explorer, Dora la Exploradora. Imagine my surprise when my fellow business owner, whom I follow on LinkedIn, Allison Martin, CEO of Engage Mentoring, shout out Allison, posted a picture with Dora Lutz. I thought I was the only Dora that she knew. I reached out immediately to say hi to Dora Lutz. I'm Dora too. We hit it off during that first connection call, and I learned she is a brilliant entrepreneur, leading the way to educate us on ESG, environmental, social, and governance principles. You may or may not have heard of ESG funds or investing for social impact by using ESG funds. So I hope you will connect with our guest today, Dora Lutz, to learn more about socially responsible investing. Without further ado, let's listen to my conversation with Dora Lutz about her leadership journey. Welcome to Building Leadership Community. I want to share with my audience, our listeners and viewers, that we have an amazing guest, and not just because we share a name. Dora Lutz is here, and I want to thank Dora for coming. It's Dora. And so I want to share with our listeners and viewers that I invited Dora here not just because we have the same name, but that is what drew us together. We had a network, a community built on LinkedIn. And it turns out we have so many people in common. And when I saw her in a photo and it said in the caption, Dora Lutz, I reached out right away. And I said, hey, I'm another Dora. Would you be interested in having a conversation? And she said, yes. And we hit it off.
Absolutely.
And then so let me just share, before I pass the mic to Dora, I want to share with everyone that Dora Lutz is an award-winning researcher and international speaker who educates and inspires audiences on how to grow their social impact using the principles of ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. And so welcome, Dora Lutz, to Building Leadership Community Podcast. And please share your leadership story with us.
Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I do love the Dora and Dora duo that we had in our first conversation and have today. And I love that what brought us together was a story that really connects to my leadership story that I shared at that event where Allison Martin obviously had been there with me. She's a big part of my story. And that was sort of, I think, where you found me. But really, I've always been very passionate about understanding how can make the world a better place and trying to figure out, where do we do that in our organizations? What role do we have to have? What is our leadership authority? What credentials do we need? How do we create opportunities for us to lead in our organizations in a way that make money for our investors, make our communities healthier, provide opportunities for our employees to succeed and thrive, do the right thing by our customers, take care of all of our stakeholders. And the first time that I said that in a meeting, that this is what I felt I was being called to do, I was in a small group of primarily men, and I said that, and they laughed at me. Um, and one of them even said, "Well, you're cute. You should just go sell pharmaceuticals." And
Oh,
there's nothing wrong with selling pharmaceuticals, but I'd already had a business for a few years by then. That really wasn't what I was coming to the table and asking for. And it made me really angry. And frankly, it shut me down for a long time. And
but
and it
you
was at a
showed them, Dora. You
I
showed them.
it did kind of light a fire, but a few years, well, maybe months later, I had an opportunity to be in a room, and I said it again, and only that time people didn't laugh. They said, "How do we support you?" And I think that was really one of my leadership moments to say, "Okay, how do we ask for support and not permission to do the things that we want to do?" And that's been a big part of my story.
Thank you for sharing that. I it made me angry, but then I realized you overcame that adversity. And so I love how you're leading into the next conversation prompt, which is how important. I love what you said, not ask for permission, but support.
Mhm.
And so, can you share a little bit about how important community is? Because it can be isolating as an entrepreneur, as a leader. It can be lonely at the top. So share a little bit about that, about building
Yeah,
community and how you have
thank
that
you.
that structure to support you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think I certainly know that I would not be here without the community of different types of people that I have around me. I've got my family that supports me in different ways and encourages me when it comes to building the business. I obviously have my dear friends who love me whether or not I'm having a bad week at work or not, whether they're there because they understand the mission of what I'm trying to do and want to support me. And then also my entrepreneurial friends who see, what I'm going through or the challenges that I'm facing and are able to put it through their own lens and give me honest feedback about the things that I can improve or even just encourage me in those moments where I'm sure you've had them. I think we've all had them where we wonder why we're doing this. And we need somebody to bring it back out to that 10,000-foot view and remind us that if we're living on our purpose, that there's a reason we're doing it and encourage us to keep going.
Yes, because yes, so it's good. So building community is important because we need that support because there are great days like this where we get to connect with other like-minded people and get to promote our businesses. And then there are days where we're like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? So,
Yes, yes. And anybody who tells you that they don't have those days is lying, or has only been doing it for a couple weeks, I think.
well, you know what? I always say that if you're not continuously learning and growing, then you really aren't the best that you can be. And so if we are in a position where you know, I feel like I'm always better when I'm kind of overcoming some kind
Listen.
of adversity. Um, and like if there's too much smooth sailing, I start to get paranoid too. So I don't know.
Right. I agree with you. I think in the entrepreneurial world, the lack of feedback sometimes is more challenging than getting feedback because you don't know. You're kind of putting all this stuff out into the void and hoping that maybe you get a couple nuggets of feedback here or somebody's going to purchase what you're selling. But if the timeline is slow, if you have a long sales process, if you're trying to educate a lot of people, I mean, you're definitely operating on faith. And having people who can give you honest feedback is really, really important.
So that leads us to the next um, question, which is what advice would you have given yourself in your early in your career,
Yeah.
or just like one really good piece of advice for the next generation of leaders that you'd like to share?
Mm. You know, I think I think the advice that I would have given myself that I would give maybe somebody who's thinking about starting a business or even maybe coming out of college early in their career is I think that a lot of us want a sense of purpose. I think we know kind of what it is that we're being asked to do from a leadership standpoint. Maybe it's ask for that promotion. Maybe it's get a new certification. Maybe it's just take a step over to a different direction that's different than what we had originally expected. But we're not maybe given permission, or we get the sense that we're not able to do that. Um, and that whatever it is we want to do isn't going to be possible. And I think the thing that I would give myself feedback on, or encouragement on, thinking about myself coming out of school in my 20s, or again when those people laughed at me, or honestly any day when my 14-year-old daughter rolls her eyes at me, right? I do know at the end of the day what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm close to pulling off what I want. It's always a moving target. I'm never going to wake up one day and be like, "Oh, I accomplished everything I want to do." Right? So it's giving myself permission to say you can honor that thing that you want to do. It's recognizing that it's going to be hard, but we should do it anyway. It's finding the people who can support us, and just knowing that it's always a moving target. There is no morning that I'm going to wake up and say, "Yep, did it all." And so it's going to be continued growth.
So I guess it's purpose, finding your sense of purpose, and letting that guide you, and that it's a continuous process.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's great advice. And so for those young, new entrepreneurs, or not so young like myself, but new at starting a business, just remember that sense of purpose and honor it, and continuously grow and improve. So,
Yes.
Dora, it's lovely to have you on. Dora Lutz, it's lovely to have you on. And so I want to quickly thank you. And also, for our listeners and viewers, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe at CoachDoraMendez.com. And Dora Lutz, would you like to share how folks can follow you, get a hold of you? How would you like our listeners and viewers to follow you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if somebody wants to look at my website, they can find me at giving-spring.com. That's the website for the business that I run. Also, they can find me on LinkedIn. So I often joke I think I'm the only Dora Lutz on LinkedIn, but now I'm like, I kind of think I want to go through LinkedIn and go find all the other Doras, because wouldn't that be a fun exercise? But yes, LinkedIn, they can find me at Dora Lutz.
All right, so there you have it. You have it from the two Doras. To the two Doras are building leadership community to support each other, because although there can be adversity and you may get laughed at, it is worth every single moment to move forward, to live your purpose and your dream. And so, Dora, I want to thank you for sharing your leadership journey with us, and we wish you all the best. And I love the part where you said money. Money, good money advice. Okay, so everyone, please like, share, and subscribe to Dora Lutz as well.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to Building Leadership Community. Watch on YouTube at Coach Dora M. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube at Coach Dora M. Visit me on the web at CoachDoraMendez.com. Hosted by me, Dora Mendez. Produced by Dora Mendez and Dylan Rogers. Graphics, editing, and sound mixing by Dylan Rogers.